Justin Jefferson speaks on JJ McCarthy with a massive quarterback decision ahead that will mold the Vikings' future in the hopes of keeping this Super Bowl window open. And we take a look at CJ Ham's uncertain future with the team with an early offseason update. We're going to be breaking down all that in this episode of Vikings Digest. But first, if you guys are a part of the nearly 93% of you that aren't subscribed and you want to stay up to date on all things Vikings, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates when they drop. And with that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is JJ speaks on JJ. It was such a catchy thing that I had to run with it, but that is Justin Jefferson talking about JJ McCarthy via an interview with Athlon Sports that he did during Super Bowl weekend, saying, yeah, I can definitely say that he's a sponge for sure. He's a guy that wants to learn. He's a guy that wants to be a top tier quarterback in this league. Our lockers are really right next to each other. So every single day we're chopping it up. We're talking not only about football, but just life in general and what's going on. And just having that connection with him before he even steps on the field is something that's special. So I'm excited to see what he does. He was doing great before he had got injured. So I'm excited to see what we're going to do, who we're going to bring back next year, and to see who's going to be our starter for next year. So first off, Jefferson was giving a lot of interviews and was asked a lot of questions on the Super Bowl weekend about who the Vikings are going to bring back as their quarterback and what he thinks on the Sam Darnold situation, JJ McCarthy. And he was giving a lot of political answers for them, saying Sam Darnold played his butt off and he's earned the right to be a free agent, just like Kevin O'Connell said, and also speaking highly of JJ McCarthy like he did right here as well. The big thing that I like and take away from this quote and that whole interview was speaking on the chemistry that they've been able to develop this season, where yeah, JJ McCarthy wasn't playing on the field, but he was still on the sidelines almost every single week. When he was able to be on the sidelines, he was right there every single week, learning, being ready, having that earpiece in his ear, talking with guys on the sideline, and with Jefferson being right next to him in the locker room. That just goes so well to form that perfect wide receiver and quarterback chemistry. We see it happen with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They're amazing on the same page. Cousins and Jefferson, they had great chemistry when they were working together. Sam and JJ, they weren't always on the same page, but they still had solid chemistry. But I think with this relationship developing with him and JJ McCarthy, seeing how hungry he is, it goes well for having the confidence in him as well. Seeing that he's wanting to be a top tier quarterback in this league, that's got to feel good for Justin Jefferson, where yes, any quarterback will want to be the best, but seeing how hungry JJ is will just make him trust him that much more, where, hey, I know a lot of people say you can't throw it deep, but we're going to work on that, and we're going to make sure that you can get me the ball deep down the field for those big chunk play touchdowns, like that 97-yarder we saw against San Fran this year, and like we've seen Jefferson do through most of his career. So if McCarthy is just beefing up in the offseason, forming that chemistry with Jefferson, it just goes to show a lot of confidence that the Vikings have and that Jefferson has. You want to make sure that your top receiver and your top player has that confidence in your quarterback. I know with Sam, they did have a great relationship, but with this, it's a bit deeper. It's a rookie who's coming in. The reason why they brought him in was so that they could keep JJ around and keep both of them for here a long time, including if they pick up the fifth-year option. There's a lot of things that the Vikings have at play here where if they bring back Darnold, they're going to compromise that. Even if JJ isn't ready to go for the beginning of the season, put Daniel Jones in there for the first 4 weeks, or if they went out and got a veteran as well to fill in for that, a more confident veteran, they could go out and do that as well. But I think Darnold is just too expensive, especially with what the Vikings had planned for the future. They didn't plan for Sam Darnold to play the way he did. I understand that. But they went into this season with that Justin Jefferson extension, knowing that they were going to have JJ McCarthy here for 5 years. So they wanted to make sure they had a quarterback that was going to keep Jefferson happy. Not that Sam Darnold didn't keep him happy, but this guy is going to be the future and hopefully the first franchise quarterback as an all-timer that we've had since Dante Culpepper, since Fran Tarkenton even. So JJ McCarthy has a chance to be that guy. And there was many comments in our last video saying that we're tired of bridge quarterbacks. I am fully with you. It's not good for Justin Jefferson to have all these different quarterbacks. It's not good for Kevin O'Connell to have all these different quarterbacks every year. You can't form a great relationship like that. You know where they have a chance to do that? JJ McCarthy, instead of trusting in Sam Darnold for one more rental year on a franchise or transition tag, or making the mistake of locking him into a contract that would overshadow JJ McCarthy's entire rookie contract and pigeonhole them to not get the pieces to build around McCarthy when Sam Darnold does move on from the team. So right now they have a chance to really it's a big decision to make. Don't get me wrong. They're at a big crossroads, but going with JJ McCarthy, building around him for the future, saving $40 million or more to go out and get those pieces to surround him on the offensive line, at the running back position, and making sure that you can go out and get some defensive guys that'll take the pressure off of the offense to have to win and put up 28 points a game. And JJ McCarthy also would lose a lot of that pressure as well, because he wouldn't have to be asked to do so much like a lot of rookie quarterbacks are when they're brought into this league. Even Joe Burrow, as great as he was, his first year, he struggled really badly until it ended with that horrible ACL injury. JJ McCarthy, he had the big injury, but if JJ McCarthy was behind this offensive line, I still think those struggles that Minnesota had in the playoffs and later on in the season would have persisted, because eventually that offensive line was going to show their true colors. But what do you guys think about Justin Jefferson's comments, not only on JJ McCarthy, but overall on this Super Bowl weekend? Who do you think that he's more leaning towards, and who do you think the Vikings are leaning towards with all this information that's come out, especially with Kevin O'Connell's Coach of the Year win and what he said about Sam Darnold on both ends of the coin, where there's the potential of him staying or going? Let us know what you guys think down in the comments, but that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is CJ Ham's questionable future. So we see here in a quote from Emily Leiker via the Minnesota Star Tribune when the playoffs ended for the Minnesota Vikings, saying there had been a post on how he spent some extra time on the field post-game in Arizona after that loss to the Rams, kind of taking things in. He was one of those guys that did not show up at locker room cleanouts at the end of the season. None of those veterans who might be near the end of their careers did. He's up there. Is this maybe when he calls it? Now, this is a question that a lot of Vikings fans weren't necessarily ready to consider until just now, really, where CJ Ham has been a big staple of this team. He's a two-time Pro Bowler and played over 500 snaps this season, but was dealing with an ankle injury late in the season. That injury has lingered into the offseason, which led to a very simple procedure apparently on that ankle. This is a post from his wife, where he was able to remote start her car from even a hospital bed with the app. But she did say there that, don't worry guys, it's just a simple procedure. So that is great. Glad to hear that CJ is doing well and that he's fully healthy and it wasn't a major surgery. But there still is a lot of things to consider with this, especially when considering that Ham is entering the final year of his contract in Minnesota and is due $3.41 million. The Vikings could create $2.65 million in cap space by cutting him. Ham has earned 2 Pro Bowl appearances, like we said, in his 9-year career, the most recent coming in 2023, and he is also a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. He has been one of the most impactful Vikings that we've had in our community since he arrived, just not just on the field, but also off the field, with a lot of the things that he's been able to do since he got to Minnesota. I've loved watching him in Minnesota. He's been a great safety valve, whether in the passing game or getting a quick 1-yard touchdown to throw teams off when we've needed it. I very vividly remember 2 seasons ago in Buffalo, or maybe it was 3 seasons at this point, when we had that Buffalo thriller against them when we were able to go in there and get the win. Everyone talks about the 4th down that Justin Jefferson got, but the touchdown that CJ Ham got caught everyone by surprise because it was his first touchdown in so long. And I remember thinking earlier that day, because I was just randomly looking at the betting odds, saying CJ Ham, he's a long shot, but I have a feeling he could score this day. And that was when it happened. I'm not saying I'm Nostradamus by any stretch of the imagination, but what I'm saying is that CJ Ham, while his impact hasn't been crazy over the past few seasons, especially when looking at how instrumental he was with Mike Zimmer, but since Kevin O'Connell, he's been seen far less frequently. Under Mike Zimmer, he averaged 378 offensive snaps from 2019 to 2021, but since O'Connell's arrival, he's played an average of 215 snaps a season. It's definitely not the type of offense that O'Connell likes to run. He typically likes to run the play action, bootleg, West Coast style offense. And Mike Zimmer, the offensive coordinators that he had, focused more on the run game, I formation, and bringing those back. And when looking at his stats, you can see where the drop off has happened, where earlier in the season, yes, as a fullback, you're not expected to have crazy stats. We all understand that. But when looking at how the Vikings were able to utilize him, especially in the passing game as well, they weren't using him a lot, but they were still utilizing him in plays where they needed to have a first down. They needed to get a few yards. They needed to get a touchdown. They needed to get a 2-point conversion, and teams weren't exactly expecting it because no one expects a fullback. Everyone talks about Kyle Juszczyk. He's a great guy in San Francisco as their fullback. But CJ Ham was one of those guys that caught a lot of teams off guard, where we'd pull a fullback dive out of our butt and teams would be like, oh, there's an extra few yards or a touchdown for you, or a 2-point conversion. Or even in the passing game this season, he made a few very key first down catches that really sealed games for Minnesota, or really put them ahead to a point where the teams were in a much tougher position to come back. And as well, like I said, with the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, he's someone who makes an impact off the field as well. In the community, he's a captain on this team for a reason. Everyone always talks about the captains that have all the flashy stats and the skill positions, Justin Jefferson being one of them, Sam Darnold being another captain. And then you have CJ Ham, where he's been a captain on this team for many, many seasons. He's been to the Pro Bowl. He's done a lot in this community, in this organization that is, honestly, it's very commendable, and it's something that we haven't seen in Minnesota in quite some time, or not to this extent that we've seen like in other players. So CJ Ham, I know it's unfortunate if we do have to move on from him. It does make sense from a financial standpoint, especially with the type of offense that Minnesota has been running, where it's been more on the pass, on the play action, and if the running game is happening, it's more so on the running back and not necessarily getting blocking from your fullback or utilizing your fullback in the running game. They haven't really done that as much. They've kind of switched more to that 1-2 knockout punch at running back, like teams like the Lions have been doing, instead of having a running back one and a fullback that you can kind of bounce back and forth between like some other teams do. But nonetheless, CJ Ham has been amazing in Minnesota. Hopefully we do see him back next season, but if we don't, it's been a great 9-year run for him and wish nothing but the best for him. But what do you guys think on the CJ Ham situation? Do you think he'll be back for next season? Do you think the Vikings cut him? Or do you think they end up extending him and keep him in Minnesota to end his career? Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments. But that's going to do it for this episode of Vikings Digest. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Let us know what you think. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss the updates. But with that, I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.